We go from personnel issues to potentially coaching issues. The Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator, Drew Psin, met with the media today and took a sea of questions from my co-host, among many other media members in the greater Phoenix area, specifically talking about what's going on and what's wrong with the Cardinals offense that Bo has averaged 16 points per game the last month. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, talk about some of the line of questioning there. I think our beat reporter Craig Morgan had a couple of good questions in a row that Drew gave some answers to, and one of them, I think he took some accountability for the offensive struggles and started with himself as far as some of the reasons for their slump.
I think it's been a little inconsistent. I think that's the key. I'm always going to say my play calling is how we roll as an offense. So when we're rolling, I take a lot of pride in that. I also think that I got to give a lot of that credit to the players and their execution. And when we're not, I got to look at myself and say, what can I do better? So I think, as you look throughout our first, 6 games now, I think we got to clean up the inconsistency, and that starts with me as a play call. Yes and no. I mean, I'd like every play to work. That's certainly one of my goals. But, I think at the end of the day, I think there's definitely areas where I feel like, hey, I could be a little bit better here, a little bit more consistent there, for the most part, yeah. Can you provide it?
Listen, I posted this on Twitter. Like, I like those answers. Like, they don't mean much come Monday if they're not producing, but like, that's what you want to hear. Like, there's accountability in his voice.
Yeah.
Probably been chewed out by his head coach. He's never called plays before. And I like Drew a lot. First of all, I like him as a person. He seems like a good, humble guy. And I thought he did a good job last year. Do I think he's doing a good job right now? No, but I'm not going to condemn a guy. Like, I think he's got 11 games to prove to me and everybody else, like, they can get it together and they can get it working. But if he doesn't, then he shouldn't be the offensive coordinator anymore. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think that with his comments, he realizes that this is some of the processes that have been in place, or what he felt was the right direction as far as the play calling. It's not working. He's reached a dead end, and hopefully that comes and inspires some change as far as how he approaches it.
Right.
If you had any questions about that, we took a look at the first 6 games last year where the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals was Joshua Dobbs. And then, of course, Kyler Murray getting a full offseason of time to gear up and even get more acquainted with Drew Petsin's offense that he played in 8 games last year. And if you look at the stats here, Damon put together a nice little graphic of the 2023 Cardinals offense versus the 2024 Cardinals offense through 6 games. And there's some eerie numbers here. The yards per game, Johnny, are basically identical at 331 to 332. So just a yard difference. Yards per play, about 0.5 difference. They're averaging 5.8 yards per play versus 5.3 yards per play. I think you still want to see that uptick. The pass yards with Joshua Dobbs was actually up at 198.7 to Kyler Murray's 187. They're down. And then you see a big drop off as far as the red zone efficiency. You had Dobbs and crew going and operating at a high level. As we remember, through those first couple games, they were money in the red zone at 78.6%. Where Kyler and crew, it certainly didn't help with some of the turnovers on Sunday, 58.8% red zone efficiency. And then just the offense's points per game, nearly identical, just under a point differential. It's 20.67 versus 19.8 in 2024. So, it's not great that Josh Dobbs coming off from the Cleveland Browns with 2 weeks to prepare for the season opener, and that offense was putting up similar numbers to Kyler Murray with the inclusion of Marvin Harrison Jr. and some players that are supposed to take a big jump in year 2 in this offense, that they're nearly identical.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best Ronnie Perkins and throw up off screen here looking at those numbers. That also doesn't include the ascension of Trey McBride, because they were still trotting out Zach Ertz's corpse to begin last season. Trey McBride didn't really have a hold of that job until about Halloween. And so we had to watch Zach Ertz like drop touchdown passes. Now, where I'll give Kyler the edges, Dobbs would turn the ball over like we saw. He had interceptions, he would fumbles. I think the offensive line, maybe not from a run blocking standpoint, I think they're doing better. Pass protection, I think Kyler Murray has a better feel in the pocket. Those are unacceptable numbers. Just at the end of the day, like, you need your passing yardage to go up about 50 to 75 yards. Your red zone efficiency is a joke. I mean, where is that? You've got James Conner. You ought to be able to run the ball with Kyler Murray and James Conner in the red zone. Like, and up until this week, you didn't really suffer a bunch of self-inflicted penalties and wounds. Like, You're not. This is the biggest indictment of Drew Petzing right now. It's the stuff they want to clean up. Like, save for last week, they are not turning the ball over. They're not committing penalties, and they're not surrendering sacks and negative plays. So that should tell you everything you need to know. Like, it is the schematics of what they're doing. They're either too complicated for Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray and company. He's just not pressing the right buttons. Like, as cliche as mundane Johnny cliche as you want to sound with that. Like, your play calls are just not executing well enough for you to score points. Like, what you're supposed to be doing. I'm not a professional play caller. Like, I can't fix this. You can't fix this. Damon can't fix this. Whatever you're doing, though, is incorrect. Like, all your instincts right now are the opposite of what should be working.
Yeah.
Where you look around the league and it's like Brian Daboll can get more out of Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors. That's a joke.
Yeah. Well, I see Brian Baldinger. We'll talk to Baldy later this week, and he's highlighting, where the Arizona Cardinals found a few successes on Sunday, and it was simplifying things. And where was the ball going? 85. It was going to Trey McBride. And I thought our guy Jody Ayler over at Fox Sports 910 had a good segment this morning saying, Trey McBride, if you run the offense through him, that's probably your way out of this, because it was the Cardinals' real way out of it last year. Like, when you look at these numbers, like, they slumped. They went into a brutal slump between game 6 and the last game, and through the last game of Dobbs and, of course, Clayton Tune through week 9. Like, the next 3 weeks were brutal. And then Kyler came back in week 10, and then they added a couple more points per game, and it was Kyler leaning on Trey McBride the entire way because he didn't really have the other playmakers necessary. I know that Michael Wilson was dealing with a neck and shoulder injury, and they were building their rapport. I think you start to go to, obviously, like, they're never going to get, like, as much as we're pleading for change in the offense, there's still going to be a team that establishes run, and they're going to get James Conner going. And then Trey McBride won, and then start to look at, who's going to be getting open between Michael Wilson and then, get Marvin Harrison Jr. up to speed. Like, I know people want to see Marvin Harrison Jr. go out there and make big play after big play, but out of necessity, I think that, McBride and crew is the first place you look to simplify things, to get back on track, sustain drives, put up points.
Yeah, it has to be organic, right? I mean, like, clearly they tried to force Marvin the ball, and what they're trying to do is not working. So, like, you almost have to, and I think this is going to be the case. I don't know what Marvin's status is this week. Like, I don't expect him to play. That's just my opinion. Like, you almost have to, like, go back to basics with this, like, and feature your most proven commodity under Drew Petzing. But I mean, this is a week to week thing, because all we saw in this offseason, highlights of what? Kyler Murray working out with Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. being the most pro ready prospect of 10 plus years of NFL caliber receivers. Like, we got 1,000 people watching. The 3 of us were at the combine when Marvin Harrison Jr. did not show up for his presser. He didn't do any on-field workouts. And we were told multiple times he is getting ready for the NFL season and the rigors that comes with that. And it was probably a handshake agreement after the combine, his interview with the Cardinals, he was going to be an Arizona Cardinal, pending anything unforeseen. You've had an 8-month head start, Drew Petzing, and you can't figure out a way to get this guy easy targets in an NFL game against some of these against Washington's defense, Drew. I'm sorry. Like, I'm glad he's not making excuses. He's doubling down on where he needs to come up, the shortcomings. That's great. But if we're sitting here in mid-November and Marvin Harrison Jr. is just like a middling production receiver, I cannot trust Drew Petzing to have premium draft picks, premium playmakers, and trust that he's going to use them correctly. Tip Ryman, I mean, I'm sure he was a big advocate for that pick. Got to have 3 tight ends in this 12-13 personnel. I love Trey Benson. Where's the production there? Like, the only thing that's working right now, Kyler Murray to some degree, Michael Wilson, Trey McBride. That's it. So, to your point, Bo, is probably just double down on what's working until you can figure the other stuff out.
Right. And it's got to be quality over quantity, right? I mean, you tried the reverse early on, and you're not seeing it's not a high percentage play for this offense. I mean, it's yielded some results, especially as talking to Damon before the show, yielded results in the red zone. I think that's where Marv is money for you right now, just because of his size, his athleticism, and it's already proven to be, even on fourth down, you're finding Marvin Harrison Jr. and he's making that big play that you need. But as far as where you can really try to get back on track is feeding those guys. And like we saw with Michael Wilson, and I think it's similar. It's not the same. Like Michael Wilson was a 3rd-round pick that struggled to stay healthy throughout his college career, didn't have anything that rivaled anything close to Marvin Harrison Jr. But he went through the struggles as far as developing that rapport early on with Kyler Murray. Let's say 6 games it took him to kind of get on the same page with Kyler, and then it clicked in Philly, like in the middle of the game, and then they parlayed that into a strong regular season finale against Seattle. We're right around that, and Marv, dealing with his own injuries like Mike did last year with the concussion. But I think if we get much further beyond this and things aren't clicking, then we got to continue to ask questions. What's going on?
At least, though, we can sit here with hope that it gets figured out.
Yeah.
Because they have the personnel. Like, that's what I keep coming back to. Eventually, by hook or by crook, like, they got to figure it out. That I feel hopelessness defensively because of the product and the personnel. And I actually feel bad because I think Nick Rallis is doing a better job than Drew Psin this year. Like, I don't even know if that can be disputed. Like, what Nick Rallis did to Brock Purdy, what he did to Matthew Stafford, what he did to Jared Goff in the second half. Look what Goff just did to the Dallas Cowboys. And subsequently, Mike Zimmer, Gannon's one of his mentors. They run the same defense. Like, I think Nick Rallis deserves infinite praise. I know they're super high on him, but he's going into a gunfight with a little BB gun or, a little pebble. Like, I feel like the Cardinals, to me, at the end of the day, Drew Psin probably is the key to turning this season around.
We all silly like the mayor.